You think your enemy is the world. But the world is nothing but a mirror. Your enemy is within. The part of you that loves the warmth of the cage, that begs for ease, that hides from its own power. This is the sickness of the age. Comfort worshipped as a god, weakness dressed as virtue. Comfort is the most seductive poison. It does not kill in an instant. It dulls the senses, slows the blood, and whispers lullabies into the ear until you mistake its prison for a palace. Nietzsche would tell you that man's spirit was never meant to dwell in the warm stagnation of comfort. We are forged in the storm, not in the still air. Yet everywhere, the modern soul kneels before the idol of convenience, praying for life to demand less of them, praying for existence to be smooth, painless, predictable. This prayer is the first betrayal. The great lie of comfort is that it is kindness. It wears the face of a friend, offering ease and relief, but it hides the eyes of an assassin. Every day you choose comfort over struggle. You sharpen the blade that will one day cut you down. You weaken your own instincts. You surrender your own will. Nietzsche understood this well. He spoke of the last man, that pathetic creature who avoids every risk, every challenge, who lives not to conquer but merely to survive. The last man seeks comfort because he fears the abyss. The tragedy is that the abyss is precisely where greatness is born. Comfort does not care for your potential. It only cares to keep you docile. It feeds you enough pleasure to distract you from the truth that your strength is rotting away while you sleep in its embrace. The snake that cannot shed its skin must die, Nietzsche reminds us. But comfort teaches you to worship your old skin, to polish it, to wrap yourself in it, even when it begins to suffocate you. And so, what could have been a rebirth becomes a slow burial. You must understand that the body and the mind are forged in the same fire: stress, strain, and trial. A muscle does not grow by rest alone. It grows when torn and rebuilt. So too with the human spirit. Comfort protects you from pain, yes, but it also protects you from growth. In sparing you from the struggle, it robs you of the transformation that only struggle can bring. This is why the ancient warriors, the philosophers of the will, sought hardship deliberately. They knew that to live without challenge is to live without becoming. Nietzsche despised the herd for this very reason. The herd craves comfort not because they love life, but because they fear it. The herd will tell you, be safe, stay where you are, do not risk, do not dream too high. They will call this wisdom, but it is not wisdom. It is cowardice dressed as care. And the danger is that you will believe them. You will let their soft words sink into your mind until you no longer hear the call to ascend, until you no longer feel the sting of your own unfulfilled power. In comfort, there is no urgency. Days blend into one another until time itself loses meaning. You wake, you eat, you distract yourself, you sleep. Years pass like this, and you mistake the absence of suffering for the presence of happiness. Nietzsche would spit at such a life. To him, happiness was not the elimination of struggle, but the triumph over it. Without mountains to climb, without dragons to slay, what are you but a ghost drifting through the hours? Comfort tells you that you are fine as you are. But this is another lie. You are not fine as you are unfinished. The human being is a bridge, Nietzsche said. A bridge between the animal and the Übermensch, the higher self. A bridge is not a destination. To stop walking is to begin decaying. Yet comfort seduces you into building a home in the middle of the bridge and pretending it is the end. You hang curtains over the abyss. You light candles to hide the darkness, but the abyss remains, waiting for the day you notice the rot beneath your feet. The truth is, comfort is not a resting place. It is a trap disguised as one. It is a narcotic for the soul, dulling your hunger for more, numbing your awareness of what you could become. The more you indulge in it, the more it reshapes you, until the will to power, the fire to rise above, grows cold in your chest. This is the slow death that Nietzsche warned of, the death without drama, the death without honor, the death that leaves nothing behind but a life unlived. The will to power is not merely a hunger for dominance over others, it is the primordial force that drives life itself to grow, to expand, to become. Nietzsche did not see it as a petty lust for control, but as the deep, relentless current within all living things that seeks to overcome limitation. In the stone, it is the pressure that cracks the mountain. In the tree, it is the root's patient conquest of the earth. In man, It is the spirit's demand to rise above the self it was yesterday. Without the will to power, there is no creation, no ambition, no ascent, only stagnation. Yet modern man misunderstands this will, fears it even. He has been taught that ambition is arrogance, that striving is greed, that desire for greatness is a sin to be confessed rather than a fire to be fed, and so he kneels before false idols. Humility twisted into self-erasure, equality twisted into mediocrity. The will to power is not cruelty. It is not the crushing of others for sport. It is the fierce joy of self-mastery, the exultation of climbing beyond what was thought possible. Comfort and conformity have buried it beneath layers of shame. This will, when awakened, is not polite. It does not whisper, it roars. It demands sacrifices, for every act of rising requires something to be left behind. To seize your life, you must first break the chains you have wrapped around yourself. These chains are not made of iron, but of habit, fear, and the stale air of contentment. Most men never even hear the rattle of these chains because they have learned to love the weight. They call their chains security and believe themselves free. Nietzsche knew that the will to power thrives on resistance. It requires a worthy opponent, and often that opponent is yourself. Every limitation you have accepted, every belief that tells you, I cannot, every excuse dressed as reason is a wall waiting to be torn down. The man who obeys his will to power seeks these walls not to avoid them, but to shatter them. Where the herd says, this is impossible, he feels the pull to prove it otherwise. Where others see danger, he sees the call to courage. This will is not granted by fate. It is not inherited from blood. It must be forged in the furnace of your own decisions. Every time you choose action over hesitation, every time you embrace struggle rather than retreat from it, you feed this will. It grows, and with it, you grow. If you starve it, if you choose safety again and again, it withers until you no longer remember what it felt like to want more. That is when the soul begins to rot, and a man becomes merely a shadow of the force he could have been. The will to power is also the will to create. It is not content with what is given. It shapes reality to match its vision. The artist does this with colors, the thinker with ideas, the warrior with his very body. In each case, the will to power is a refusal to accept the world as it is handed to you. It is the belief, burning and unyielding, that you have the right to carve yourself into something greater, that you have the strength to stand against the current and push it where you choose. But beware. This will cannot be borrowed, and it cannot be faked. Empty boasting, shallow displays of strength, these are the masks worn by those who have no true will, only the desire to appear powerful in the eyes of others. The genuine will to power does not need applause. It needs only the horizon, something distant and formidable to chase. Those who possess it often find themselves alone, for the herd distrusts those who walk beyond the fence. But loneliness to such a man is not a curse. It is proof that he has stepped beyond the boundaries where most men stop. This will is the engine of self-overcoming, the root from which all strength grows. It is the difference between a life lived in obedience to the circumstances you were given and a life lived as the author of your own becoming. To feel it fully is to know that every obstacle is a challenge, every failure a lesson, every victory a step towards something greater still. It is the refusal to kneel before fate, the defiance that says, I will not merely exist. I will. The greatest battle you will ever fight is not against another man, not against the world, but against yourself. Nietzsche called it Selbstüberwindung, self-overcoming. It is the act of becoming stronger than the person you were yesterday, the relentless shedding of the skin of your former self. Every man is born with instincts, habits, and fears that seek to chain him to a narrow life. To overcome the world, you must first overcome these inner tyrants. The mountain you must climb first is the mountain of your own soul. Weakness is not some foreign invader. It is part of you, a shadow that moves when you move, a constant companion. It knows your secrets. It knows the exact words to whisper to keep you still. It tells you, you've done enough, when you've barely begun. It tells you, you cannot, when you stand on the edge of possibility. It is a voice that sounds like your own, and that is what makes it so dangerous. Nietzsche understood that to silence this voice, you cannot ignore it. You must face it, wrestle with it, and break its hold. Self-overcoming begins with an unflinching honesty about what you are right now. Not the image you present to others, not the mask you wear, but the raw truth beneath. Most men cannot bear to look at themselves without flinching. They build walls of distraction, of pride, of excuses to avoid the confrontation. But you cannot rise above what you refuse to see. The first act of self-overcoming is to tear down the illusions about yourself. You must stand in front of the mirror and see not only the man you are, but also the man you have allowed yourself to remain. Once you see clearly, the real struggle begins. For self-overcoming is not a single act, it is a way of living. It demands that you challenge yourself when no one is watching, that you create your own trials when the world offers you none. This is the opposite of comfort. Comfort tells you to rest in your current shape. Self-overcoming tells you to burn that shape away. Each time you face difficulty and choose to rise rather than retreat, you slay a smaller version of yourself. In its place, something sharper, stronger, more alive emerges. The process is violent. Growth is never gentle. A seed must break apart to sprout. A caterpillar must dissolve in its cocoon to become a butterfly. You too must be willing to be broken, not by others, but by your own will. This breaking is not destruction. It is transformation. Nietzsche saw the human being as a rope stretched between the animal and the Übermensch, the higher self. Walking that rope requires balance, courage, and above all, motion. If you stop, you fall. If you cling to what you were, you never reach what you could be. To practice self-overcoming, you must become your own adversary. Do not wait for the world to test you. Test yourself. Set challenges that scare you. Confront truths you do not want to face. Seek out what makes you uncomfortable and make it your home until it no longer has power over you. Each time you do, you will discover that the limits you thought were real were only fences built in your mind. And when you break through them, you will see farther than you ever imagined. But here is the paradox: each time you overcome yourself, a new self is born. And that self, too, must be overcome. There is no final victory, no ultimate arrival. Self-overcoming is endless, because life is endless in its demand for growth. This is not a punishment, but a privilege, for it means you can always become more. The man who stops overcoming himself begins to decay, even if he still breathes. The man who lives in self-overcoming is always alive, always reaching, always becoming. Nietzsche did not preach perfection, he preached ascent. The higher you climb, the greater the winds will try to push you down, and the more seductive the thought of rest will become. To rest too long is to surrender to the gravity of your lesser self. The will to overcome must be stronger than the will to stay the same. You must treat your old victories as stepping stones, never as thrones. To sit too long on a throne is to become its prisoner. This is why the true warrior of the spirit never allows himself to be finished, never believes the work is done, never mistakes the current peak for the final one. Nietzsche's command, word, der du bist, become who you are, is not a gentle invitation, it is a demand. It is the call of the lion to the sleeping cub, the voice of the mountain to the climber at its base. You are not yet who you could be, and you know it. Somewhere beneath the compromises, the masks, the inherited beliefs, there is a self that is uncorrupted, unafraid, and unchained. That self does not beg. That self does not kneel. That self moves through life like a force of nature, shaping the world instead of being shaped by it. To become who you are is to strip away everything that is not this self. But most men do not even begin the journey. They confuse the roles they play for their true identity. They are fathers, workers, citizens, believers. But these are only garments worn over the skin of the soul. They forget that garments can be torn away. They fear to ask, what am I without these? For the answer might reveal how little of themselves they have truly claimed. Nietzsche knew that the self is not found in the eyes of others, nor in the approval of the crowd. The self is forged alone, in the crucible of your own will. To become who you are, you must first kill who you are not. This is an act of courage, for it often means betraying the expectations of those who shaped you. Parents, teachers, friends, society itself, they all give you a script, a role to play. They hand you a life already written. If you obey, you will be praised for being responsible and normal. But you will not have lived, you will have performed. To break the script is to risk exile from the comfort of belonging. But that exile is the first step toward freedom. This becoming is not a single moment. It is a long stripping away, a series of deaths and rebirths. At each stage, you will be tempted to stop and declare yourself complete, but each completion is only another disguise. The man who believes he has become who he is has merely mistaken the latest version of himself for the final one. Nietzsche saw life as constant flux, constant ascent. There is always a higher peak, always a deeper truth. To stop is to fall. It is not enough to dream of your higher self. You must drag it into existence. This means action, relentless and unapologetic. If you are timid, you must court danger. If you are weak, you must train until strength becomes your nature. If you are ignorant, you must devour knowledge until your mind burns with clarity. Becoming who you are is not a matter of waiting for destiny to arrive. It is an act of will, repeated until the old self is unrecognizable. And yet, this transformation is not only about adding, often it is more about subtracting. You must unlearn the lies you have been told about what is possible, about what you deserve, about what is realistic. You must discard the beliefs that keep you small. Many of these beliefs will feel like they are part of you, but they are not. They are weeds choking the roots of your true nature. The work is to tear them out, even when it feels like tearing flesh. This path is lonely. The higher you climb toward your true self, the fewer will walk beside you. The crowd prefers the safety of sameness, and they will try to pull you back to it. They will call your transformation arrogance, rebellion, madness. They will not understand that you are not rejecting them. You are rejecting the version of yourself they are comfortable with. You will need the strength to stand apart, to trust the voice within you more than the chorus outside you. Nietzsche believed that your highest self is not a gift waiting to be unwrapped. It is a conquest waiting to be won. It will not reveal itself to those who wait politely. It belongs to those who demand it, who fight for it, who are willing to destroy everything false in order to uncover what is real. To become who you are is to take full possession of your life, to seize it from the hands of chance, fear, and tradition, and to mold it into a form worthy of the spirit that inhabits it. It is too. You have heard the truth. Comfort is the slow death, the will to power is your birthright, self-overcoming is your duty, and becoming who you are is your destiny. No man is born finished. No man is born free. You are forged by the choices you make and broken by the ones you avoid. The enemy within will not sleep. It will wait for the moment you hesitate, and in that hesitation, it will reclaim you. So take these words not as philosophy to admire, but as a weapon to wield. Comfort will seduce you, the herd will mock you, and your old self will beg for mercy. Give none. Seize your will, crush your weakness, and step beyond the man you are today. For there is only one question that will matter when the final hour comes. Did you live as the architect of your own becoming, or as the tenant of a life designed by others?